Peace is often defined as the absence of conflict. But peace involves much more. The truth is, we each face trials that can rob us of peace. Illness, economic problems, our own weaknesses, damaged relationships. What threatens your peace? At the 2022 Pursue Peace Convention of Jehovah's Witnesses, you will discover how you can find real, lasting peace in your life right now.
Hello, and we welcome you to our very special program. During this pandemic, we've been following one particular religious organization on how they were able to continue to worship during this pandemic. And since things have opened up, a lot of things have changed for this organization. So we decided that we would bring them back on to find out the latest updates on how they are still coping and living during this pandemic. And have things changed? What's on the horizon for this organization? We hope you enjoy this coverage. And I am so delighted to welcome back on our show, Robert Hendricks, U.S. spokesperson for Jehovah's Witnesses. Robert, welcome back.
Thank you, Paul. This is becoming a regular thing, so I really appreciate you having us back.
Yeah, I was thinking about maybe the Robert Hendricks show would be pretty cool. So
that probably wouldn't be as cool as you.
But thank you so much, my friend. And we wanted to have you back because there's been a lot of developments with Jehovah's Witnesses over the last couple of months that we want to inform the audience on, because we have been talking with the organization through the pandemic and after, and also giving them updates on what's going on. And Robert, before we talk about the regional convention that's virtual, the ministry, because the last time we spoke about, maybe the public ministry starting again, we're going to get an update on that. But before we start, Robert, I wanted to kind of get an update on what we talked about a few months ago about the Watchtower versus Scranton anniversary. And you guys had an event. You invited the legal forum, the legal world, and also one's part of the media. How did that event go?
It was pretty phenomenal. We didn't expect it to be as well attended as it was, and the most important thing was that those that did attend were really some of the best law schools in the country, district attorneys, attorneys general offices, courts, systems that attended as well. And it was an important time for us because, the 20th anniversary of Watchtower v. Stratton, for most people, doesn't mean anything. We talked about it last time that it has affected really all of our lives because of the free speech that it's given us. The precedent-setting decision really helped affirm the privilege that we have, or really the right that we have, not just as Jehovah's Witnesses, but as people, to talk with our neighbors about topics of our choice without having to actually go to the government and ask for permission. Seems like a basic right, but it was something that had been restricted, not only in Stratton, but it was beginning to happen all over the country. And so it would have started perhaps with Jehovah's Witnesses and others, and then it would have affected our free speech. So the fact that we were able to talk about that decision, the constitutional right to go door to door and speak with our neighbor, and to have these government officials there was important to us because we wanted to let them know, first of all, that this decision is well ensconced in constitutional law, that the 2002 decision of the United States Supreme Court, in this case, the 8-1 decision, affirmed the 49 others that were put in favor of, or made in favor of, Jehovah's Witnesses, and in favor of free speech, and ultimately in favor of the right to worship in the way that we choose. But this particular one was interesting because we recognize that municipalities, they have a need and a right to protect their residents, and some construe that protection and security by fashioning laws that restrict our work and not realizing they're not doing it purposely, but not realizing that really is unconstitutional, and it does hurt us as an organization and as a people. And so being able to get this message out far and wide to the 50 states, to many very important people was powerful. And the recording is likely to appear on Harvard Law's website over the next several weeks. So we're looking forward to not only having that live session, but then also having the recording out there for others to see. And we might also say that the reason why so many attorneys came was because it gave them continuing legal education credits. So the response from many of those who attended was so phenomenal, because many of them said it was the best CLE course that I ever took, that it was a model for others, that the discussion was vibrant and exciting, and it really was. I don't think it could have gone better, Paul. So thanks for asking.
Yeah, I love it, Robert. It was a really, really intriguing subject. Many in our audience really appreciated. We got emails on it talking about that they never knew that this actually happened. So Robert, thank you so much for giving us that update. All right, Robert, so let's get down to brass tacks, what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to start off by talking about the regional convention. We know over the last several years, especially during the pandemic, that the regional convention for Jehovah's Witnesses has been virtual. And that is the case now. It's been going on for a couple of weeks. And Robert, what I thought we would do is maybe tell the public how they can access it, but also what they're in store for with the different topics, segments, and how it's broken down. So Robert, the floor is yours, my friend.
Well, it's interesting that you call it a regional convention, because it hasn't been so regional lately. Over the last 3 years, it's really been an international convention. Virtual convention. We do have regional conventions. As you know, Paul, Jehovah's Witnesses have some 700 of them every year in the country. That's what was planned. In 2019, we had 655 regional conventions and also 7 international conventions in the branch territory of the United States. But that all stopped in 2020, and we went away from venues, stadiums, coliseums, and convention centers, and we went virtual. And it's been a very interesting 3 years for a lot of reasons. I think that, as you know, our virtual conventions that are available at jw.org, by going to jw.org, it'll be on the homepage this week. But you can, if you don't see it on the homepage, you can go to About Us and scroll down to conventions. And you can watch it. It'll stream for you right in your living room, right on your device. Or you can have a JW Library app on any iOS or on any Android system, and just actually walk with it. You can see it right on your phone, right on your iPad or device. So it has become very, very accessible to the world. It's an international virtual convention in more than 500 languages. We also have voice assist for those who are blind. We have more than 100 sign languages that it's translated into. It's really, we called it a modern day miracle in 2020 because we were able to do that in just a few weeks of time after the regional conventions were canceled. But now we've got the system. We do it early. It's up. It's beautiful. It's powerful. And this year's theme is Pursue Peace. It's amazing that in a time when we have seen perhaps the most divided world that we've ever seen, and that's not just everywhere else, but in this country, in our communities, we can't seem to agree on anything. And our theme is Pursue Peace, and it really has been a really important topic, important theme for us as individuals and as families.
And Robert, I wanted to kind of just chime in just for one brief second so our audience could know something, and that is that JW Library app. whether you are one of Jehovah's Witnesses or not, whatever religion you belong to, even if you're a non-religious person, this app right here is invaluable. I mean, it is so amazing. My family, we enjoy it, and they can download it on the iOS, Android website as well too, and App Store and all these other things. So I just wanted to talk about that, Robert, because as a person with a disability, I appreciate the way the app is laid out, the way that I'm able to use it, even with my limited movement that I have in my hands, and it's just an incredible app. And as a tech guy myself, I just had to throw that 2 cents out there. And also,
and it gives you access to some 200,000 videos, 600,000 written publications. It is pretty phenomenal that through that app, you can stream a 3-day convention at your convenience, and even download the entire convention to the app and stop and go whenever you want, and it's all free. It's just hard to even believe that most people in the audience will say, where's the catch?
Yeah.
But there is no catch. We don't even ask for your name. Just download the app and start watching the convention, and it's just that easy.
And Robert, what I appreciate about what the organization has done too was to have this on Roku, Fire TV, and I believe Apple TV too. Is that correct?
Oh yeah. I can see you're not an Apple guy.
I'm warming up to it. Ever since you and I have known each other, I'm starting to warm up to it. So yeah. You're converting me, Robert. So I'll let you know that. but yeah, that's really, really awesome how the organization has made sure that ones can access this vital thing, especially with the theme pursue piece. I've heard this before amongst my colleagues and amongst our audience, that we no longer live in the United States. They call it the divided states. And when we look at just the way how every day we look at news, Robert, since you work in public information and the spokesperson of Jehovah's Witnesses, you have to have your finger on the pulse of what's going on in news, as we do as a news organization. And it is just heart-wrenching just how we see a lack of peace and a lack of getting along. And I think this convention right here is definitely done at the right time. And the interesting thing about it, Robert, when did the organization come up with the theme for this convention? That's what I thought was pretty mind-blowing.
Typically, our conventions are prepared beginning 5 years in advance. So wow. It takes a long time to do not just shoot the videos, but to write them, to do the treatments, to do the theme, to build an entire program around that theme. It's many years. And yeah, I think peace is probably something that it's less perhaps prescient than the Joy Convention that we had in the first year of pandemic. But it is more applicable today than probably we've seen in a very, very long time, if not ever. And you talked about people being divided, and it's so true that people are divided, and it's sad. Families are divided because of even just things like politics, or because of a mask or a vaccine, and it's sad for us to see. And the great thing about our convention is, it's not, we don't look at it from a political perspective, from a governmental perspective, but really a personal perspective. Where can we agree? First of all, we may be divided, but we do want peace. I mean, that's somewhere where we can agree. That's common ground. We want personal peace, peace in our hearts. We want to be less anxious. We want family peace. We want our community to be in peace. Of course, where that peace kind of intersects with division is when other people don't agree with us or we agree with them, and then that becomes the division. But that's really what this convention is all about. How can we find that common ground? How can we achieve peace personally, the type of peace that nobody can take away from us, the type of peace that even watching a television show and a news show and seeing the terrible things that are happening, like the Indiana shooting in the mall that affected actually one of our sisters, that could tend to just rip at your heart and tear at you and rob you of peace. But the peace that this convention is talking about is peace that external factors cannot take away. It's a peace inside of us that's abiding as a result of a hope, and that hope is in a kingdom, in the message found in God's Word, in a relationship that we have with our Creator, and the relationship that we have with our beautiful families and with our fellow worshipers. Those are things that really bind us together, and it's the foundation of peace in our hearts. So it's a very valuable program. I think many will appreciate it, and they can even view it like a buffet. What they don't like, they can just roll through and go to the next talk. And there is one, Paul, one beautiful family that's featured in day one of the convention. And it's very real to what our communities are going through. It's a step family, a blended family, who had to learn to have peace. What a great lesson for us, since really the majority of families today have some sort of blend to them or extension to them. It wasn't like that 20 or 30 years ago, but it is today. Learning how to live together in peace, boy, that's a valuable, not just lesson, but it's a valuable skill for families to be able to cultivate. And I think it's really going to help many, many millions of families around the world.
Yeah, I totally agree, Robert. I had an opportunity to look at that, and it was real to life. It touched on the challenge that children have. If your children are being bullied, if your children are just having a hard time adjusting, it really gave some really true to life, practical advice on how to deal with that, and quite different from the advice that we get today from so-called experts. So it was really refreshing, to see a different view of things and how ones were affected by it. And Robert, we know that the convention is broken up in Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Right.
And each day they seem to have a scriptural theme behind it. Will that scriptural theme kind of be highlighted throughout the entire let's say Friday, Saturday, and Sunday portion of the convention?
Yes, and the scriptural theme, it's all based on a scripture. So each day has a theme, and that theme will permeate the entire day. So the reason why we have it broken up, of course, into 3 days is because that's the way we used to hold them. They would be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday conventions. We'd have a morning and an afternoon session. People would come into the convention city, perhaps stay in a hotel. We would clean up the venue on Thursday and move in, and we'd enjoy the convention for those 3 days. And we would enjoy at every convention a daily theme. And that scripture, for example, on our Sunday convention is found in Romans chapter 15, verse 13. May the God who gives hope fill you with all joy and peace. May the God who gives hope fill you with all joy and peace. And so that really epitomizes the whole message of the convention, that if our joy and our peace comes from our God, it's something that's inside of us that nobody can take away.
That is so true. And that is so true, Robert. And one other thing that stood out in my mind, and other members of the media as well, too, when we look at the convention and look at the different aspects of it, is just because someone is one of Jehovah's Witnesses, it doesn't mean that their life is always going to be perfect.
No.
That they're going to have challenges. Mm-hmm. They're going to have real life problems. But it really shows them that when they use the Bible, how they're able to find out how to cope with that. And I thought that was really, really amazing how the organization does that, because sometimes when, we who have a faith in God, we sometimes we're afraid to say we're having problems, we're having, challenges, because we feel that ones who have faith should not have challenges, because it shows a lack of faith if we have challenges. Mm-hmm. But it really shows that the practical value of just real life situations and real life people, Robert. And I think that really reaches the heart of those who are Jehovah's Witnesses and ones who are not Jehovah's Witnesses, to see that these are real life situations and how they're dealing with it.
No doubt. When you look back in the Bible, you think about somebody like David, Job, even Jesus. They didn't live a carefree life. They were faced with many obstacles. They were faced with much persecution externally. And for Job and David, some of it was caused by their own doing in some ways. And so when we think about ourselves, we try to be righteous, right? We try to be Christian. We're doing our best to practice Christianity. But things befall us. The death of a family member. Our dear brothers in Ukraine, tens of thousands of whom have been taken from their homes. They had to flee their homes. More than 40 of them have been killed in warfare, in battles. That's something that real people are dealing with. Uvalde, we had, that's a small community. It affected our 2 congregations there profoundly. We made a visit there, and we tried to help them to deal with this, to get that peace back in their hearts. But ultimately, it's their relationship with their Creator that's going to do that, and that's what they're holding on to. And so a convention like this reminds us how we can achieve peace in our hearts, even through those difficulties, and recognizing that just because we're going through difficult times, it doesn't mean that we have God's disapproval. It just means that we're living in a world that faces us with challenges all the time. The swift do not have the race because unforeseen events befall us all. And so when that happens, that's when we hold on to our faith. But we can't have faith and hope and peace in our hearts. It's not going to happen at that moment. We need to be ready now. And that's what this convention is really all about, helping us to deal with what we're dealing with, but also mostly preparing us for a future where these things will continue to happen.
Yeah, it's definitely timely, Robert. And in which the time in which we live in, definitely needed. And Robert, before we move on to the next hardball question I'm going to ask you, is there any other thing you want to mention about the virtual regional convention, or anything you wanted to highlight for the audience out there before I move on with that next question?
The only news that I have is the same news that the world has, and that's where we will have in-person conventions again in 2023. Now, if that includes communities like Long Beach, where we have been for 24 years, I'm sure those communities are going to be very, very happy. Many of our brothers and sisters will be very happy as well. And so we're going to move back into the in-person convention world in 2023. That was announced last week, and there's a real excitement about it. But also we're all wondering how we're going to do that. What will a live convention post-pandemic, hopefully there will be out of the pandemic or moving out of the pandemic. What will that look like? How will we put them on? Will we still have a virtual component? Will we have resources online as we do now? That's yet to come, but it is encouraging that we can move back to something that we had done for more than 100 years before we paused those in-person conventions back in 2020. And so we're excited about it, and we're excited to see how this is going to happen.
Thank you for that update, Robert, because I know several people have been wanting to know the answer to that question, because I just heard and witnessed throughout the different news coverage, and even your first media interview that you did, I think it was back in Houston, and talking about the in-person regional convention and how the community, how the management of these facilities really appreciate having Jehovah's Witnesses there, and they often talk about how you all really leave the arena cleaner than what it was when you got it. So yeah, I'm sure they're looking forward to that.
I think so. I'm sure they're anxious and hankering to know, just like us, what will happen. Because when we go into a convention city like a Long Beach, the city just takes on a different feel. So many have told us that because our brothers and sisters are walking the streets, and of course we're always well dressed and well mannered, and we're in the restaurants and we're enjoying the city. It gives the whole city is a buzz, and we've also heard that there's a peace as well, and it's different from the events that are normally in these convention centers, and whether it's Cow Palace or wherever it is, because typically when you have perhaps a concert or any kind of entertainment, it comes with security issues. It comes with issues related to wear and tear on the facility. They don't leave typically. I don't want to generalize, but generally speaking, they don't leave the arena cleaner than when they came. In fact, one venue operator said to me in an interview, he said that it's like it's been massacred. So when we come in, it's like they hand us the keys and they say, "We trust you." And that's been missing for the last 3 years. All around the world, 5,600 conventions we have around the world. We're the largest convention organization on the planet. And for all of those intangible reasons, people want us back. But then there's the tangible reason, and that's when we go into Long Beach, when we go into these venues around the world, there's an economic benefit to also the community, because our brothers and sisters, they're not shy about spending money, eating at the local restaurants, shopping at the local shops, enjoying the local hotels. And all of that contributes to a really good relationship that we have in cities around this country, certainly, and around the world.
So, Robert, you mean when Jehovah's Witnesses have their convention, these venues don't give you these conventions? You actually have to rent these out?
Yes. Yeah. We do get very favorable rates because of the intangibles that we bring in. In fact, we may get assistance directly from the city, as an example. Okay. We also may do things with the city in combination with the city for the venue that may reduce our costs at times. But no, we pay. In some cases, we pay a pretty significant fee in order to rent out these venues. But it's well worth it because, conventions at the end of the day for Jehovah's Witnesses are not only about learning. It's not only about teaching. Now we may have forgotten that because 3 years we've been taught so well from in the pleasant atmosphere of our own home, sitting on our couch. We can pause and like I say to my wife, well, what did he say? Oh, let's just go back. Let's rewind or let's see it again, right? It is very much for us in our homes about learning and teaching because we're not together with our friends. But when we do 3 days in a convention city, when we go to a venue and we sit and we immerse ourselves not just in the learning aspect of it, but that spiritual immersion includes what we call a spiritual paradise, surrounded by the best people in our communities, the most beautiful, peaceful people. And when we leave on a Sunday, it's very different from when we turn off the television after we've seen a virtual convention. When we leave on a Sunday, we say, I wish I didn't have to go. That was awesome. And that is not just a talk or a video. That is the experience. And frankly, for me, I'm looking forward to all of us, our families, me, our congregations, having that experience again, where it's not just about listening to a talk, watching a video, but it's about immersing myself for 3 solid days and becoming, as a result, a different person than walked in there on Friday.
Well said, Robert. Well said. And some of the major cities where the conventions have been in, major ball stadiums throughout the world. And Robert, there has to be a scripture, though, saying that witnesses should not have their convention at AT&T Stadium where the Dallas Cowboys play, because how can that happen with the worst team in football that Jehovah's Witnesses can have the convention there? That's what I want to find out.
Well, Paul, I'm going to definitely be neutral on that point. I'm sure we have a lot of Cowboys fans who are Jehovah's Witnesses, and we go to the best venue that we can to house our event, and I think actually we were in Arlington in 2014. So I'm sorry to tell you, we may actually, who knows, we could go back there.
Yeah,
Sorry, Paul.
And I love the neutral view of Jehovah's Witnesses. I really do, Robert. Thank you so much. So, Robert, let's talk about something else. We know that a lot of things are opening up. We know in-person meetings have opened up for Jehovah's Witnesses. I know that's when you and I had our conversation 2 conversations ago. We talked about that. And during that conversation, we talked about the field ministry. And I remember you dropped a little gem for us there. You said, I don't know, maybe public forms of the ministry may open it up. We just don't know. And on, I believe, May the 31st, there was an announcement. And do you mind sharing that with the public? Because I know some who don't have the app are wondering, well, I know they said the public ministry was suspended, but I'm starting to see some familiar little hearts out there. So I need the spokesperson to tell me what's going on. So, Robert, can you fill us in, my friend?
Well, just a little background. March 20th, 2020, we made the unprecedented decision for this organization to suspend our public ministry and our public meetings. So that was a very bold move at a very important time that no doubt saved many lives. And we can say that our Kingdom Halls were not the places that transmitted a deadly disease. And we can say that our brothers and sisters did not knock on a door and go into somebody's home and bring or take from that home the coronavirus. But we're in a very different place now. As we said last time, we're now in a phase where we're really calling it living with COVID, learning to live with COVID. And we recognize that COVID is not going away, but we also recognize that it's a very different time. It's a different time because we have vaccines. That doesn't mean you have to take them, but we have a choice. We know that they protect people. We know that they save lives, and they protect people even when that individual perhaps gets the virus. These variants are virulent, and we understand masks, and we understand how to use them, and we understand that cloth masks have limited benefit, and N95s can truly protect us. We get that. So we have another choice. We can put out a mask if we want to in our activities at our Kingdom Halls or in our ministry. We also know that it's an airborne disease. So all of these things we didn't know back on March 20th, 2020. And we know it today. And we also realize that even though we see still 130,000 people a day, that's probably at minimum, who are contracting the disease, generally speaking, the percentage of those hospitalized, percentage of those who have actually died as a result of it has dramatically dropped. All of that being said, we have to now begin to learn how to live with COVID while also being ministers of the good news. And that's what we are. We're Jehovah's Witnesses, witnesses coming from the Latin term testimonium, from the Latin Vulgate, or testify, We need to testify to be a witness. And Jesus told us, go out, preach, teach. He sent the disciples out. His last commandment to the apostles was to go, therefore, and to be witnesses of him in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the most distant parts of the earth. So we continue that it's not just a tradition. We continue that mandate, and we're once again out there. Now, we're not knocking on doors. We're not walking down a street and knocking on doors. But we've opened up 2 aspects of the public ministry. One is return visits and Bible studies, meaning, Paul, if you were my Bible study, I could now go to your home or go to a park and have an in-person session with you. Now, if you had, for example, taken literature from Jehovah's Witness, and you might get a knock on the door and say, "Here I am," and it's amazing how people are responding, because really the world has gone into a living with COVID mentality as well. And so they're not surprised that an old friend from 3 years ago is knocking on their door. And the second aspect of the ministry that we've opened up is our cart witnessing. Our cart witnessing is ubiquitous around the world. It started in Paris and New York City back early in the 2000s, I think it's 2013, and now it's spread. Our cart witnessing spread to almost every community where there is a place to put a cart. So that might be a train station, it might be a bus station, it might be a rail depot, it might be a truck stop, it may be a shopping center. We were out yesterday in a little like park where right between stores, a restaurant on one side and a store on the other, and it's a through place to get to a parking lot. And we were under a beautiful tree, and it's a really beautiful way to introduce people to our message because, it's on their terms, and most people like that. Most people like the fact that this is on my term. I come to you if I want to talk about the message. And so I think a lot of communities have been, really have seen our presence again as being a sign that we are in the next chapter and that there's a sense of normalcy back. Jehovah's Witnesses were always kind of the butt of a joke, right? They'll find you. They'll knock on your door. Joe, you can. Years and years ago, we've seen it in Saturday Night Live and skits about Jehovah's Witnesses because we are ubiquitous in our work, and we're back, and we're happy to be back.
And Robert, one thing that I've noticed, and in my area, seeing the witnesses out with cart work, even though masks are not required, but all that I've seen have on masks. What kind of impels them to do so, even though the organization is not mandated that they do so?
Well, I don't know that everybody has a mask on. Certainly, we've recommended masks. Mm-hmm. I live in a communal setting here at what's called branch headquarters, and so I live with many people. So we're told that we have to wear masks when we're doing this work. But many have chosen, probably the majority have chosen to wear masks, depending on the situation, particularly if they're in a busy bus station or on a busy street in a busy city. And so with that said, we do that because we want to protect ourselves and others. I think one of the things that we've always known about talking is that we have things that come out of our mouth. There's no nicer way to say it, right? And when we're in close contact with somebody, as we are in our carts, it's a reasonable request to make that person feel better about us in their interaction with us, and also for us to feel better, so that we're still viewing life as sacred. This still is a dangerous disease. We're still in a pandemic. We don't say to people, only come up to our cart if you're vaccinated. We talk to homeless people. We talk to those who have no job and perhaps they haven't had a change of clothes. We talk to everybody who comes. We talk to those who have problems with alcohol who come up to us. And believe me, we get them all coming up to the cart. Some happier than others that we're there. And we want to protect ourselves and others. That's really the bottom line.
Robert, what's been the response from ones who have saw the witnesses out there now? We're like, hey, where you guys been? We missed you. And what's been some of the other responses that you have gotten?
I think the response has been very interesting because on the one side, we're cautious, right? So not all of Jehovah's Witnesses are participating in the cart ministry, just like not all of Jehovah's Witnesses have returned back to our kingdom halls. We get it. It's a dangerous time. COVID had a profound effect on each of us. That probably will be a lasting effect. It's changed the way we deal with stress. It's changed our neural pathways when it comes to being around people. It's changed the way we deal with the danger of disease. And And so we understand that people are going to be cautious, and people are going to be cautious to come up to us. But we are here from community to community, many positive messages about being back. And the simple fact that we are now standing again in communities where we stood for many years, in places in New York City or places in Long Beach or wherever we are, it's telling people that things are we're on the other side of this. We haven't quite scaled the wall, but we're definitely seeing a change. And that change, having us there, is representative of that change. And people are hungry to feel better about their lives, are hungry to feel better about their communities. And when they see peaceful people with a positive message on the corner, and they haven't seen us for years, many are just saying, thank you for coming back. Many are congratulating us. Many are clapping. Many are just expressing the fact that they are glad we're there, and we're glad to be back as well. And hopefully, as the weeks and months go on, you'll see us everywhere we used to be, in the many tens of thousands of locations that we've been around the world.
Awesome. And Robert, thank you so much for that update. And Robert, before I let you go, is there anything else out there that you would like to inform the audience about, whether about conventions or about the public ministry or any other events that may be on the horizon?
Well, I'm sure that when another event comes, you'll have us on the show. But you can always keep up with everything related to Jehovah's Witnesses on jw.org. It is the most translated website in the world, with more than 1,050 languages, more than 100 sign languages. We also we set a record a couple of weekends ago with the release of, I believe it was 13 Bible translations in one weekend. I mean, that's just unbelievable. Just think about what it takes to translate the Bible into another language. It's amazing. And what's beautiful about this work is that we may never achieve it, but our goal is to have the Bible in everybody's language, in the language of their heart. Now, of course, the Bible is available in more than 3,000 languages, various translations. But not all of them are downloadable on a JW Library app. Not all of them are free. And we're providing these Bibles, frankly, to areas and smaller language groups that many of whom, among them, could not get a Bible in their language with God's name in it, or couldn't afford a Bible. There are some places where one family can only have a Bible because they can't afford to have a Bible for everybody. And these Bibles are distributed at no charge, are downloadable, and it's pretty phenomenal that this organization has not stopped during COVID and has released so many language translations of the Bible so that it can be more accessible to the rest of the world.
And Robert, that is so refreshing to hear that, because the author of the Bible would want everyone to read that Bible and not be prevented from doing so because they can't afford it. So it's great to see what.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? I mean, really, the first miracle in the Christian congregation was to be able to speak in languages. Now, many think about tongues, and they think about. I don't want to denigrate what happens, but they think about people babbling in tongues in a language that can't be understood. But the reason why the apostles and the 120 at Pentecost received the ability to speak in tongues was to speak in other people's languages and dialects. So they didn't have that natural gift, of course, to be able to speak in so many languages. Jerusalem was filled at the time, at the festival time, with many people with different languages and dialects. And that allowed the message of the Bible to be transmitted to many. And what they did then in Jerusalem was they took that message to their own people. And so the point of Bible translation is exactly that, so that every single person on the planet can have access to a Bible in their language, can have access to the message of hope that is in the Bible, and can have access to a message that gives somebody peace in their hearts that can't be taken away by the craziness and divisions of this world. And so we're happy to do it. It's why we exist as an organization. It's to support the field of our brothers and sisters and our communities, and to support these language groups all over the world. And we're trying to do that to the best we can.
Robert, thank you so much for always making yourself available to come on and give us updates. And absolutely, whenever another update comes, I'm going to have you on and chat with you again. Thank you so much, Robert. And please stay healthy and stay safe, my friend. And I look forward to chatting with you soon.
Paul, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Once again, a huge thank you to Robert Hendricks, U.S. spokesperson for Jehovah's Witnesses. Really appreciate him giving us an update about the international virtual regional convention that's going on right now. Once again, we'd like to thank Robert Hendricks, U.S. spokesperson for Jehovah's Witnesses, for coming back on to give us an update on how the organization is doing living during this pandemic. We learned about the international virtual convention that's going on, but also plans for in-person regional conventions next year. We also got an update on the public ministry and what Jehovah's Witnesses are doing right now during this pandemic. So we hope you enjoyed this coverage. Until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and remember, I love you guys to life. And take care.
Peace is often defined as the absence of conflict, but peace involves much more. The truth is, we each face trials that can rob us of peace. Illness, economic problems, our own weaknesses, damaged relationships. What threatens your peace? At the 2022 Pursue Peace Convention of Jehovah's Witnesses, you will discover how you can find real, lasting peace in your life right now.